All right, so I'm excited to talk to everyone here because AI is the future, and I don't want the AI robots to own all of my stuff, right? So as we just started, Sayed, I'd love to kind of first introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're doing at a very base level because we are going to get deeper into it.
Sure. So I hate to burst your bubble. Well, don't really hate to. I actually take enjoyment in what I'm about to say, but the bots will own everything that they will take over. So the question is who's going to own the bots? And that's really where the premise of decentralized AI comes in. So what we're doing is we are focusing on what happens when the reality of all of these AI agentic solutions that we keep hearing about, when that becomes an actual reality, right? Within the physical world, beyond the digital world. So when that happens, we need to start thinking about what does a post-agentic world look like? And that's the infrastructure that we're building for.
I love that. And Chris, you're doing a lot of on-chain agent economy stuff, but that again is the tip of the spear. So I'd love to kind of let you go further into what you're talking about now.
Yeah, I'm with Virtuals Protocol, and we have a tokenized agent launching platform. So when you talk about agents in the future and taking over and everything like that, here we are at the Tokenize,
Yep.
conference. So it's all about ownership, right? When you think beyond just agents, we're working a lot on autonomous businesses. So these are revenue generating businesses that are controlled and run by agents, and by tokenizing them, it's the opportunity for humans to get involved.
I love that. I love that. And Keith, you're funding and building a lot of different stuff right now, but I'm not even going to pretend to understand the technology, so I'm going to let you talk about it.
Thank you. Thanks, Charlie, for the panel. And thank you for Tokenize and the team for putting this together like that. So Keith Kaplan. So my background, computer science and creativity. And I am the founder of Maker Inc. It's an investment platform. We're focused on the re-industrialization of the globe that's happening right now with AI, robotics, data, sustainable and nuclear energy. And before that, I was the co-founder and CEO of the Tesla Foundation. And so I've had inside access to a lot of how this stuff all happens. And I'm excited to talk in the panel about how we're going to change the world.
Well, we better change the world because it's changing and we have to be in control of what happens. So, Rex, you're doing some really cool things at Holo AI. I would love for you to tell everyone here kind of what you're up to right now, what your main priorities are.
Yeah. So Holo is one of the companies that we incubate here. This is actually our space, which is, we call it Creator Space LA, and it's a venture studio. This one's oriented at the entertainment, creative spaces. And Holo is one of the companies we're incubating. And Holo is basically create your AI twin. And as far as an AI twin is concerned, you can create a twin of yourself in about a minute. And where it connects to blockchain is that one of the problems with AI is how do you prevent somebody from cloning you? How do we know it's you? And so we actually have a KYC process that basically when you create your clone, we actually KYC you. And we have a blockchain registry that records, we call it a proof of AI identity. And we have a marketplace that you can then license out your twin. So we believe that your twin can make money while you sleep. And there will be all types of new opportunities in the AI economy of licensing your AI kind of name, image, likeness.
Wow. Well, the college athletes will love that, especially for the name, image, likeness stuff. And Saeed, you argue that people should own their own AI, right? The bots are going to own it, but you should own it as much personalized as you possibly can. What's the concrete ownership primitive that you want to ship out at consumer scale in 26?
So when we talk about agentic, right, that is the front-facing component. There's multiple platforms. There's multiple. If we think about it in the world of blockchain, right? To use that as an analogy, there's a lot of these these L0s that you could build on top of. The question becomes, which one of those allows you to own the actual AI agents that are going to be created? Because it's not going to be a matter of the creation of these agents, right? Like I said earlier, a lot of these agents, right? So you have virtuals, you've got, we were talking about BitTensor earlier, you've got creator.bid, you've got all of these launchpads that allow you to build the to build these agents and these agentic solutions. But the reality is that these agents that are being built, the underlying components that they're being built on top of, they're not owned. Ultimately, all of that is flowing up to these centralized entities, either an Anthropic or an OpenAI or a Google, right? The real danger in that instance becomes that, look, the inevitability of the world accelerating towards this sort of arena where AI becomes a reality, that's happening. We're already in the phase of acceleration. We just don't realize it because we're aboard that rocket ship, right? But look at it, if anyone looking from the outside in can see it. So the question becomes, when you have that, who has the agency? Who's going to actually own the information? Not the front facing, but the underlying. So for us, the big part here is not this notion around these large language models, but these individualized language models, right? Your ILM, or what we call an ILM, right? Your ILM is novelly yours. No one has access to it. And anytime someone wants to have access to it, they need to get permissioned access from you. And when they're inferring upon your ILM, you're the one that gets to monetize on it. So we really need to start thinking about, what does a post-labor economy look like? Because ultimately one of the results of this is going to be the automation of tasks, leading to the automation of processes, ultimately jobs.
Yeah.
Jobs are going to be a thing of the past, and it's going to happen relatively quickly, right? We're not decades out. We're probably half a decade out from that happening. When that happens, your AI agents are the ones, like Rex mentioned, right? They're going to be the ones that are going to be doing their jobs 24/7. When that's happening, you better make sure you're in ownership of the one that's replacing you.
Yeah, and I'm going to steal that as a segue into asking Chris, because Virtuals is running on-chain agent registry, agent commerce protocol. What minimal standard do we need for agent identity and settlement so the builders don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Well, I mean, I think that's something that everyone's working on right now. The interesting thing that we're seeing is really like in benchmarking, right?
Mm.
And that's like not just like with LLM, but that's with like all, agent activities. Also like one of the things you mentioned is our registry, is like how people find agents, right? And then also really how agents find other agents, so, with what Rex is talking about with this, embodiment of like, yourself, that agent is not going to be able to do everything. What we've seen is that agents can really complete like one or two tasks well. And so that's where like agent swarms and coordinations come in. So, yeah, very much in the future, it's going to be agent to agent communication. And right now, I think there's a lot of benchmarking going on, just to try to help to develop those standards.
Well, we're relying on the 4 of you to make this all happen. So I hope that, okay. Keith, you invest across data centers, robotics, media. What are your top infrastructure bottlenecks preventing you from getting to where you want to go?
That's a really good question, because we're seeing it play out, right? Last panel started to get into it, this idea of a bubble, right? So we have some historical precedent, and then I'll get into what the bottlenecks are. But the historical precedent sets the stage. Just outside of London, north of London, probably a little over 120 years ago, somebody invented a locomotive. Okay. So at that moment, that unbelievable innovation that had never occurred ever in the history of man, which was to combine, at that time, thousands of horses into this railed beast that could carry commerce from one place to another across the continent in breakneck speed. There was a large bubble, infrastructure bubble. Did it destroy the proliferation of that technology? Not at all. Basically, there was a course correction in what happened. So that's an extreme example. In this situation, specifically what these gentlemen have been talking about and what they're working on, you have to think about these things in an interesting way. These are the bottlenecks, okay? Compute is reliant on energy. Energy and the ability to compute is reliant on hardware innovation. So first, somebody has to invest and then figure out how to create that hardware. Then you have to figure out how to power it at scale. And then you have to distribute that technology so they can be used for adoption. That's the bottleneck that we have right now. And you're seeing it play out with the hyperscalers. Now, in this situation, if finance is your specialty, we're seeing that, what's the old term? The snake is eating its tail.
Is that the, yes, I know who you're talking about. Yes. Thank you.
Right. So what that means is that you're seeing a lot of finance hocus pocus. I'm investing in you and you're investing in me and we're all going to have what we need together. But that's for discussion. So
And Rex, you're making these AIs. What's the simplest personal AI ownership model that a mainstream, I call it passing the grandma test, right, can use and own in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, we make it simple. We've just launched our consumer app, which will allow you to create literally your twin in a minute. You take a selfie, you record yourself for about a minute, and then it from that process, which we've patented, essentially you get a one-shot twin of yourself, an avatar, a voice, and you can buy a phone number that essentially can answer as you. It can screen your calls. It's also agentic. It can be your assistant. It can call out. It can make bookings. You can connect it to your calendar, and you can build knowledge bases against that. And there's also APIs that you can connect if you want to build your own apps. And we're applying that in all types of fields, real estate, we're agents, for example, uh, and it's personalized. So the whole idea is, I like to say that the target market is people who want to be on a billboard, and that's real estate agents, that's lawyers, that's doctors, small business owners, and so we've actually found a good cachet there. But we've actually found a really big niche right now in travel, where we're deploying AI travel agents, and one of those examples is Carnival Cruises, where they have these personal vacation planners. They have 900 of them, and they're not looking to replace those planners. Um, but if you cruise on Carnival, they assign a person that's always going to be your person unless they leave the company. And so they want that personal touch. And so they want a twin of that person. And it's to augment them when they're on another call or at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's connected to the whole booking system, but it's personalized against that agent. And that's that kind of personal service that they want to offer. So, but it's pretty easy to connect. And we have other companies that are developing apps, like, for example, for real estate, where they're embedding our SDKs into their systems to create twins of real estate agents.
Right.
Right. And real estate is another great application, because the signs that you see, 80% of those calls go unanswered. Right. And it's always going to be that agent. So it's personalized to that person. And so that's kind of some of the markets we have. And here in LA, it's creator focused, right? So we have over 500 creators. Um, in fact, we have, we'll show it later, but Michael, for his book, we actually created a whole platform for him that has audiobooks in 10 languages in his voice.
Yep.
And that was done by AI. Obviously, he doesn't talk 10 languages. And then you have access to his twin, which is trained up on the book. So you can basically talk to Michael or AI Michael, and essentially ask anything about Bitcoin. Is it going up? What's the cycle?
Well, I'm sure we all have lots of questions for Michael about that. But Saeed, you mentioned the disappearance of jobs, and I think it's going to happen at a radical pace, just like you do. You framed it as kind of a switch from labor to intellect. What metric is going to prove you right in 2026 that this is happening way faster than anyone realizes? And you can't just say unemployment rate. I mean, like, give me something like, what is the metric?
Unemployment rates are bullshit.
Yeah, of course. That's why I said you can't say that. Yeah.
So just take a look at the people that are actually at the forefront of coming up with where you have to follow the money, right? That's the best way to look at it. So who are the ones that are actually taking a look at these portfolios and building out their strategies based off of that? Or the people that control the money? Who are they? Let's take a look at Wall Street, right? And take a look at some of the top players within Wall Street, right? Namely, it's the first name that comes up, or one of the top names that comes up, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs just came up with a report saying 300 million jobs are slated to be or of knowledge workers are going to get impacted, right? Let's do some simple math, right? 300 million knowledge worker jobs. Now, generally speaking, knowledge work is something which is one of the more high paying jobs, right? It's people, this isn't your local plumber or your mason, right? So on average, let's take 100K. 100K on average is what your typical knowledge worker makes. Multiply that by 300 million jobs. That's $30 trillion worth of labor-based value that's going to go away. That dissipation that's going to happen,
Wow.
right? Take a look at that. Take a look at McKinsey's reports, right? I mean, and generally, I tend not to put too much emphasis on these reports, but let's take a look at like what we ourselves have done. So we launched Shiza just over 2 years ago, right? We're a startup, right? We are not a GE. We're not someone that's got thousands of employees, right? But just take a look at absolute percentages. The people that we look to bring on are some that we have to be very selective about who we bring on. And these people that we bring on are, the best of the best. Amongst the best of the best, right? Within the last 3 months, right? Within the last 3 months, which was the last quarter, we ourselves, a startup, by utilizing our own technology, have been able to eliminate our own limited workforce by 25%, right? That says something.
Absolutely does. And Chris, you're building a lot of tech, and I don't want to get too much into the dev journey of what 2026 is going to look like for you, but you've done a lot of hack sessions, building sessions. What's going to break first? The tooling, the funding, the distribution? What's going to crash first?
It was interesting. Earlier, Keith was talking a lot about the energy
Yeah.
behind all of this. I think there's an element to that. You know, as you were speaking, I think something that's also interesting, and I'll get back to your questions in a sec, but like, how do you measure this, right? Like, how fast is it coming? I think one way to measure it, and I was just thinking this as you were talking, was the number of agents with on-chain wallets. We kind of have like an internal debate quite a bit, like how quickly like agents with wallets are going to surpass actual humans with wallets. So I think that could be like one way to measure it. And also just like with what we're doing in terms of like, we have something called ACP that you touched on, right? Agent Commerce Protocol. And there's a registry, it's called a butler agent that a human interacts with. It's sort of the orchestrator. We just hit like over 6,000 calls yesterday in a day for that. And it's broken a bunch. Back to your question, what's going to break? Yeah, the tech's breaking.
Okay.
But you have to break shit to go forward, So I think that the collaborative nature of the industry is going to help with that. Earlier Keith was talking, I love the analogy of like the snake eating the tail. I kind of almost see that happening more in like traditional Web3 companies Web2 companies than Web3. And I might be like idealistic like in saying that, but when you look at like all these Anthropic and Stripe and they're all kind of to a certain level doing similar stuff. Now you kind of have Ethereum has just pushed out doing a 8004, which is a verification layer, right? And obviously open and permissionless. No one else is doing that yet. We're doing verification obviously as well with them, right? The big companies, they're not escrowing, they're not touching the dollars, right? So I believe the tech is going to break first.
Okay.
But that's good. You have to just keep breaking it. I think that like in the industry, there is this nature of like building in the open. Whereas you look at a lot of those big companies, they have the thousands of people, but they're slow, right? They're running focus groups. They're doing this. Like you have to just ship fast, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So-
I think it's all going to break. The tech's going to break. The power grid, all this stuff is going to break, but it has to break in order to, I think Keith put it in a good way, not like blow up, but like redirect, like find that new direction.
And Keith, your diligence teams claim decentralization everywhere, right? It's happening everywhere. How can we say that while still depending on like centralized GPUs? And what are some of the red flags you look for with that stuff?
Well, specifically, if we think about what happens with AI, blockchain, and decentralization, think about it. AI is the brain, okay? Blockchain is the nervous system, and the decentralization is really the body of it all. So it's going into the infrastructure level. So what we're looking at now is ways to have what they call behind the meter power. So then we can then build compute and industry where the energy is. So as you think about things, also, a lot of us now see ourselves as global citizens, right? And that has a lot to do with the decentralization factor, right? So taking it down to its core, if you're my customer, right? Well, the main currency that we have is trust as a service. Whether you're an investor in what we're doing, or I'm investing in you, or we're helping you as an operator to be as successful as possible. So we're going to go through a lot of turmoil. There's going to be a lot of disruption, but the cycle of disruption is going to be much faster because a lot of the training environments that we have are going to be enabled by AI through synthetic iteration. And we have a little joke in the office. I told it to Joyce earlier. So AI has no chance against human stupidity.
I like that. My only question is, can we unplug Skynet if that time comes?
Well, here's the thing, right? So the funny thing about conspiracy theories is probably all of them have some basis, but somebody else with a lot of power is trying to break that conspiracy theory at the same time.
Yep.
The idea of Machiavelli actually came from this guy, Antonio Machiavelli, like in the 16th century. And he was really one of the forefront creators of the Magna Carta.
Oh.
All this human nature still applies. It's just being digitized.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Charlie, one thing I wanted to comment on what Keith had mentioned earlier and some of the questions. One consistent pattern that we're seeing in the markets is this concern around energy, right? Energy being that great bottleneck because of GPU consumption.
Let's go nuclear.
Right. So, but here's the thing. One thing that we need to think about that most people are not thinking about is all of this mass energy consumption that these compute resources that these GPUs take up. The reason behind that is because this is what the current transformer-based architecture, which is the catalyst behind all of these LLMs, these large language models, come in. But let's not forget that base intelligence that's being built, right? So right now there's that hardware issue that's going to that's
Well, before you blink,
Yeah.
5 to 10 years, depending on, again, how fast this iterations work. We've got quantum coming online and different ways of solving the nuclear creation of energy and storage, not just SMRs, or small nuclear reactors. But don't forget, solar is also the capture of nuclear energy. So there's all these different things that are going on at a really high scientific level that are being pushed at hyper speed because of what you're talking about. The real innovations are with the small language models that are being built by the people who create the large language models for themselves to push that technology forward.
And what Keith is referring to, that's called distillation, right? Where you learn from the existing large language models, and that was required. That's a core requirement. But then on top of that, the next variation of these these small language models that are coming in, right? That takes less and less energy. And then not to mention the fact that on a baseline architectural level, there is also what we call post-transformer based architectures that are going to be coming out that are going to require far less energy as well. So this energy problem that everyone is talking about
Well, that's
today,
not going to go away because remember, once there's mass adoption, we were talking about gold, right? So let's look gold as an example. Very small groups of people, first in the Egyptian or the cradle of civilization, saw gold as this very valuable thing because it was incredibly difficult to mine. Well, how many similarities do we have here in what's happening with virtualization of ourselves and commodities? So again, human nature is going to play out.
So I want to do a rapid fire real quick. We got about 90 seconds left. I want to start with Rex. We have a room full of problem solvers. 30 seconds or less, each of you. What is the one thing you need help with right now to accomplish your goals? You're in a room full of problem solvers. You're in a room full of people that can help. Everybody here can do amazing things in different categories. Everybody, quick, 15, 30 seconds each. What is the biggest thing you need help with right now? Because you got a room full of people that know how to help.
We're looking for developers to build on top of our platform because we're building a framework for conversational AI and AI twins. And so we're looking to anybody who wants to develop products on top of that. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. We'll come back this way. So Keith?
For us, we're building a network of both scientists and people that are at a very, very high level that understand our mission.
I like that. Chris?
I think we're similar to Rex, but we're just looking for people that are innovative. I think particularly we're looking to bring talent like from Web 2 over to Web 3.
Saeed?
smart capital,
Yeah.
What we're looking for is really smart capital, people who capital is capital, but the well-connected capital is really what we're looking for so that we can achieve scale.
I love it. We appreciate you guys being on the panel here today. I'm sure everybody here would love to interact, and you guys just heard what they need help with. If there's anybody out there, now you know what to talk to them about. So let's give them a big round of a hand.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Charlie.